Welcome to a parallel project training APM Project Management qualification podcast based on the APM Body of Knowledge 6th edition. You should be using this in conjunction with our e-learning, study guide and potentially a tutor-led course. For more information, please visit www.parallelprojecttraining.com.
Hello, welcome to this Parallel Project Training podcast with John Bolton and Paul Neighbour.
Me. Hello, I'm John. Hello.
Hello, and I'm Paul.
Hello.
So we're going to do, this is quite a little, we're going to be careful here about terms and definitions because what the APM done is recognised some of the program management stuff in the language they use. So in this section we're going to look at scope management and define the terms outputs, outcomes and benefits. But at the same time, those who've listened to the whole series of podcasts may remember that we left out section 4.2,
Yes.
which was the role assignment matrix.
Yes,
Because we
that's
thought this was an appropriate time to pick this up.
Yeah.
I actually think this is quite an important bit of project management in defining scope,
Yeah.
controlling scope and having a clear scope baseline.
Yeah.
Is a fundamental bedrock of project success, really, knowing what you're doing and what you're not doing.
Yeah.
So-
And how you're doing it.
And how you're doing it, yes.
Mhm.
So scope management is, starts off by saying, let's define outputs, outcomes and benefits. So looking at a project produces an output or a number of outputs.
Correct.
So let's choose an example. Let's do new hospital, shall we?
Why don't you work the other way around? Because let's sort of tackle the outcome first and give
Okay.
you an example of an outcome.
Okay.
Right. An outcome is a reduced hospital waiting list. Reduced time for a hospital waiting list. Yeah.
Yes.
Time to wait for an operation, for example.
Reduce time waiting for
An operation.
An operation.
That's
yes.
right. Okay.
Yes.
That's an outcome.
Yes.
Now, people would argue that's a benefit.
Uh-huh.
But it isn't, because if you're not waiting to go into the hospital, you don't perceive it as a benefit.
Okay. So
There are people that are waiting for the operation that will perceive it as a benefit.
So what are the benefits of reduced hospital waiting time?
Well, to you, if you were waiting to go in a hospital, you'd have less time off work, wouldn't you? You'd have less pain, less anxiety.
Yes. So there's an economic benefit.
That's right. And for the politicians, they get re-elected.
Yes.
And for the doctors and nurses, they feel better about themselves. They're more motivated. They have a better service levels. And
Is that a benefit?
well, it is to them.
It
you
is
know.
to them.
Do they don't like saying no to everybody, do they?
Yes.
Sorry, you need a new hip, but you've got to wait 6 years.
Yes. Okay.
You know, individually, they're going to feel better about themselves and their work.
Mm-hmm.
I might sound a bit patronising, but it's a moot point, Paul. I mean, let's just develop the argument.
So the benefits are the social and economic benefits.
There's loads of benefits to that. I mean, there are financial benefits to society. There's,
Yes.
you know, people get back to work. They're more productive when they
Yes.
get back to work. Their employers have less downtime. There's, you know, so it's. I mean, you use a different example if you want to, but it's one that works for me. I mean, a reduced hospital waiting list, waiting time for a hospital operation, is not a benefit unless you're waiting for one. People observe that concept, that characteristic as being beneficial or not. Getting from London to Birmingham in an hour is not a benefit if you're not going to go to Birmingham.
No, the benefit isn't the reduced time on the train. The benefit is what you do with the time that you've saved.
If you were going to go.
Yes.
If you're not going, if you've got a house in Aylesbury and High Speed 2 is going to go through the back garden, it's not much of a benefit, is it?
Yeah. So
Okay.
the benefit is not the travel time. The benefit is will the economy grow faster? What do you do with that hour that you've saved?
But it has to be
It's more
observed by
productive.
somebody. It's a
Yes.
value that somebody or a group of people
Yes,
put
that's
on it.
right. That's
And
right.
that group could be society.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got a beneficial aspect to an outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And the two are different, because the outcome can be a disbenefit to other groups. To some people, it could be a benefit. To others, it could be a disbenefit.
Uh-huh.
And it's the netting off of all that you have to allow for.
Yes. So the outcome would be reduced waiting times or faster journey times.
Yeah. A faster journey time is not a benefit.
No, because
If you don't go, who cares?
or if you
I used to go
Actually, a good example, reduced journey time is not a benefit if it just means you spend half an hour in bed longer in the morning.
Yes, well.
Which is in fact what people will do.
Anyway, we've got the idea of benefits associated
Yes.
with outcomes.
Yes.
But the outcome, the reduced hospital waiting list, is not a product.
No, the
Okay.
product is...
It's an evolution of a number of things that have got to happen.
Yes.
Like better computer system, more doctors and nurses, more hospital wards, better
Operating
queuing
theatre.
system, whatever.
Yes.
So there's kind of a number of things. Now, to get more doctors and nurses is, once you've got those things, you have to have a project. You have a recruitment project to hire them.
Mm-hmm.
To build the hospital, you've got a project to build it.
Mm-hmm.
To get the new computer system, you've got a project to generate it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of those are outputs. They're physical, not physical so much, but they're tangible things that you can observe
So we're getting a bit close to scope.
that conspire. That's right. You conspire to give you an outcome.
Yes.
Right. So when you talk about a business case, you talk about benefits,
Yes.
and people do confuse benefits with outcomes. I'm being fairly pedantic about it, but actually, in reality, I think people do confuse the two, and that arguably there's not a problem with that. Reduced journey time could easily be, as long as you can quantify it. People talk about benefits as being quantifiable, you see,
Yes.
preferably in monetary terms.
Preferably, that's right.
Right. So if you can't quantify something, a reduced hospital waiting list, you could probably quantify it, but you can't identify the benefit of it.
That's right.
So it's not going to value.
In fact, that's the issue with health, investment in health. We're getting really philosophical now. But
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the issue about spend more on health. What's the benefit?
Yes. Why do you want to do it?
So why do you want to do it?
Yeah, and when you get into the real margins, why do you want to shave, why do you want to get reliability from 99.5 to 99.7 if it costs £2 billion?
Yes, exactly.
You could rip up the entire rail network and get 100% if you want to spend
Yes.
enough money.
That's right.
But is it really worth it? And that's where you get into the discussion about business cases.
And pestle again.
Yeah. So, I mean, some of the program management methods discriminate between outcomes and benefits.
Uh-huh.
And I can understand why people
Get confused.
a little bit confused. And I think legitimately you could muddle the two up. I practically don't have a problem with it. But if you want to look at it according to the theory, they're different.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. Yes.
And then you come back to sort of working from right to left. You come back through outcome towards output. And output are the practical, tangible things that a project produces.
Yes.
And those outputs are usually described as products. So
That's right.
a project
What you
produces
have to
products,
deliver.
they're outputs. Yeah.
Deliverables.
That's right. So they produce products, and the project's success criteria are associated with the delivery of the products or the outputs. Yes? So a project produces products, and that's what the project manager is targeted with.
Mm-hmm.
A project manager will be successful if they deliver the new hospital on time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Whether that hospital gets used in a constructive way is not the project manager's problem. If they're not responsible for hiring the doctors and nurses, then how can they be blamed if it's not successful?
Mm-hmm.
So, in a program sense, there are lots of projects that conspire to give us that outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the projects have got outputs.
Outputs.
Yeah.
So they
outputs.
deliver physical.
That's right.
Physical or no, they're not always physical outputs, are they? They could be intangible.
They're
They
usually
could be
tangible.
advertising campaigns, but then, even then you
No,
got
no. Then you've got the hoardings.
there you got the hoardings.
Yeah, no, the
I was trying to
project
think of a
produces the-
non-tangi-
No, you have non-tangible benefits,
Yes,
and that's again why you need
but
to
you have to
discriminate
have
between the two.
You have to have a product to have an output.
That's right. What's a not?
I was trying to think of one that doesn't
What? Have a product.
have a product, but I can't.
Well,
Even a cultural change program,
yes.
you have.
I mean, you might end up
Yeah.
synthesizing some measure for it to prove
Yes.
it's been done,
Yes,
but arguably, I mean, people say advice and guidance.
yes, but it's still a report,
Well, if you produce one,
or it's a presentation,
or
it's
it might not be. I mean, you might just go and sit with somebody and do a bit of mentoring.
Yes. Okay.
Now, as part of a project.
Yes.
Now, is that a product? Well,
It's still.
I think you're getting quite close to
Yes.
it.
Okay.
But the thing is, I mean, I think how
So
would
can
you?
we do my property developer one, just so I can check this? So the benefit, I'm a property developer. I'm going to build 5 houses on a bit of land.
Yeah,
And the benefit to me is that I make a lot of money
as a property developer,
as a property developer.
that might be your objective
That's my
benefit.
benefit. There are benefits to other stakeholders, such as the local authority, in that they can meet their housing plan.
Yep.
And there are avoidance of disbenefits to other users
Well,
like
a benefit of a home buyer is you get a new home to buy.
Yes, get a new home to buy.
The benefit of the electricity companies, they get more consumers.
Yes,
The benefit to the water company is they get more consumers.
yes, that's right.
A disbenefit to the highways agency is they've got to build a roundabout.
Well, the benefit to them is that I'll probably have to pay for the roundabout
Well, if that's exactly right.
under
Yeah.
my,
So, but I mean,
under my,
yeah, but they
under
might
the
not.
rules. Yes,
Yeah.
right. So that's the benefit.
Yeah.
The outcome
The outcome's new housing estate.
is a new housing estate sold.
Yeah.
So, is it a new housing estate?
More places to live, actually.
The outcome
more
is
places to live.
the outcome is more houses built.
Meeting
And
targets.
the difference between the outcome is the benefit is the sale.
Yeah.
Yeah. The output
Are the houses themselves.
are the houses
And
themselves.
the roads.
And the roads and the
electrical
sewage and
infrastructure and
all
sewage.
need
That's
to support them.
right.
So that output is beginning to define the scope.
The outputs are you'd have to define the scope to understand the outputs
Yes.
of the products. Yes.
Yes,
You
so-
would. And that's why they're defined in the work breakdown structure and the product breakdown
Yes,
structures.
that's right. I'm going to mention those next. So I've got some choice about what outputs I deliver to maximise my benefit.
That's right. And you might choose to not deliver some.
Yes.
If it comes down to it, you might achieve the benefit by missing a few out.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Or building different outputs to achieve a different outcome.
Yes. Well, I mean, there's quite a lot of anecdotal evidence to describe where, what you thought was the answer isn't the answer. You get a lot of benefit out of not doing what you thought you were going to do, but do something different. Yeah.
Yes.
Or you do a very complicated solution to a very simple problem.
Yes. Right. So we've got two outputs.
Yes.
The next bit is we can't design a project around outputs because they're too chunky and big. So we need to break those outputs down into
Potentially,
more detail.
Yeah.
And that's where we wheel out our next tool, which is we've got a work breakdown structure or product breakdown structure.
Yeah.
The world's divided, isn't it, between those who think product breakdown structures are more important than work breakdown structures and vice versa.
I don't see a difference.
No.
You see, I mean, if you do work, you produce a product.
Yes.
And if you've got a product, you must have done work.
Yes.
So the two are not two separate things. They're just simply two sides of the same coin.
That's right.
So if you have a work breakdown structure, you're required, in a work package, you're required to define what the product is.
Yes.
In a product description, you're required to define a statement of work to produce the product.
Yes. So it's the same.
What's the difference?
Just a different way of slicing the same
Yes,
cake.
that's right. And in fact, I mean, it's just overcomplicate it, really. I think it's just,
So let's take my 5 houses.
yes,
Phone's going. We're just in order.
yes. Your 5 houses.
My 5 houses. So those would be my 5 products.
At the top level, yeah. Yeah, but
Yes.
within those houses, they're broken down into footings, walls, seat, roof,
That's right.
interior decorations,
That's
mechanical,
right.
electrical, yeah.
That's right. That's right.
So, but and the level to which you choose to break them down is down to you, really.
That's right.
How much detail do you really need?
Yes.
If you've got someone that's really experienced at building houses, you might just say, go and build my house. Let me know when you're finished. You might not worry about the detail of it.
That's an interesting point, which is could lead us down a bit of a rabbit hole. Because if I'm going to contract out the building of a 5-bed house, I don't need to know anything about the detail of how that house is
exactly.
built.
Yeah.
So actually, I just need to do my product breakdown structure to the level
Yes.
which I then place a contract out, and the builder can then go and
That's right.
do his work
Yeah.
breakdown structure.
Well, your work package becomes his product.
yes,
his project.
exactly. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly
Exactly.
right. It's like Russian dolls. It's all nested. So it's
Yes,
one
that's
within
right.
the other. And the level that you go down to is the level that you're happy to delegate control.
That's right. That's
So
right.
if you're really worried about the minutiae of something, then you'd probably want to see their work breakdown structure and crawl all over it.
But
If you're comfortable they can do it, you let them do that and trust that they've done it.
That's right. So it's really about the level of detail, isn't it, John?
It is.
It is. So you need to go down to the level of detail required for the level of control that you need,
That you want.
that you want.
If you're happy with a line on a Gantt chart that's 3 months long,
Yes,
then that's fine.
with a big liquidated damages at the end.
That's right. Or if you wanted to know, every last in and out of that, you might end up with a plan that's 200
Yes.
elements on it, and you managing the detail.
So that's introduced another concept, actually. The level of detail that we're putting in the work breakdown structure or product breakdown structure links to the level of detail we'll see at the plan
Correct.
at the end of the whole
That's right.
process.
That's right. That's right.
So,
That's right.
and you might have different levels in different parts of the plan, depending on
That's right.
on who you're getting the work done.
I
So
mean, if
my
you're-
negotiations with the environmental agency, which I'm doing, I want them planning lots of detail,
That's right.
but building a house where I've given to Fred
That's
the
right.
builder, who I've worked
That's
for
right.
20 years. I know he can do it.
Just get on with it.
Just
yeah.
get on with it.
That's right. So I think, all of this work breakdown structure and product breakdown structure is a bit of a overcomplicated, really. I mean, it's just chopping things up into manageable chunks.
Yeah, I mean, mostly you see them as indented lists in Microsoft projects.
People seem to
They're
be
not
fixated in these. We've put the diagrams in the book, the sort of hierarchical things.
Yes.
But I've seen grown men reduce to tears trying to draw those.
Oh,
you know.
really?
Well, as they get bigger, they become
Oh, you can't do 'em.
unmanageable.
You have to do them as an indented
In
list.
Visio and
Really? No.
yes, yeah. I've seen people have to do that. I mean, in fact, I have had to do that.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. So I won't mention the company yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, dented list is a much more common way of doing it.
There is something called Wps Wizard. Did you ever come across that?
Yeah. Oh, there's loads of downloadable
Takes
stuff.
the
Isn't
takes the Microsoft project
it?
plan and draws it that way.
Draws it that way. Yeah. Why?
Well,
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm with you all the way.
But it's the same thing, yeah.
So, I mean, the work breakdown structures, so long as there's the one thing you have to sort of remember, and that is that you do work, you get stuff. To get stuff, you do work. There's a one-to-one relationship between a work package and a product.
Uh-huh.
To get a product, you have to have a work package. And if you go down to the next level, that's fine. Now you've got 2 products and 2 work packages. And as you further decompose it, so you get more and more detail. Yeah. Each work package has a single responsible person. They don't overlap. They're discrete. They're individual pieces of work which you can manage individually if you wish,
Yeah.
or you can give to somebody else. You generally have some sort of consistent numbering, and they're relatively short duration.
So then the next thing is we need to map who's responsible for doing what.
That's right. So
normally.
yeah, you have this concept.
This is your
of
favourite topic, John.
RAM. I like RAM charts.
I know.
I think they're really good. And if I like them, that means they're good.
Yes.
So
Except when you've got 20
Except when
people
you've got
and
20
50 products.
yeah, but you don't do them at that level, though.
Yes, okay. I've
You
seen
know,
people try and do them at that
no,
level. They
you-
just get lost.
I know exactly.
Ayo.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Hey, sheets of paper on the wall.
Yeah,
Oh,
I know
my
exactly who
word.
you're talking about. Yeah.
Several-
So you start off with we start with the work breakdown structure, and imagine that sort of across the top of the diagram,
Yeah.
and down the left hand side you have all the roles
Yes.
of the people that are going to do it, and you map the roles against the jobs,
Yes.
and you simply ascribe a certain level of involvement for each role against each work package.
Yes.
And the commonly held convention is call it a RACI chart. So you
Someone's
have
responsible, someone's
RACI.
accountable, someone's consulted, and
Someone's informed.
someone's
That's right.
informed.
So you have an RACI chart.
Mm-hmm. And you can be responsible and accountable,
Yeah, I think you can.
like the sponsor if it's a.
Do you know what? I'm
standalone.
not so worried about accountability. I think responsibility is quite important.
Uh-huh.
So responsible is the person that's going to do it.
Yes.
And I have decided that you are responsible, therefore I'm accountable for that decision.
Yes.
So I've made you accountable.
Uh-huh.
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. I've made you responsible. And I'm
gonna hold you
accountable
to
for that
account-
decision.
And I'm going to hold you accountable. For
If I go and
doing-
appoint a contractor and they mess up,
Mm-hmm.
I've made them responsible, but I'm still accountable for having made them responsible. So if they mess up, I can't say, well, it was their fault, because someone will say, well, why did you appoint them? You couldn't have been managing them properly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So accountability is sort of the linkage back up the organisation.
Yes,
Responsibility is the linkage down.
That's
Yeah.
correct. That's spot on. Gosh, that chapter's made some huge leaps, hasn't it? Because we've gone all the way from benefits,
Yeah.
delivering the economic benefit or the socio-economic benefits of the project, through to the outcome, which is what the project actually
That's right.
facilitates, to the output, which is the sort of sum total of the scope, right the way through breaking that scope into work packages, placing those work packages with suppliers, and then assigning those RACI charts out. I met one guy who did this RACI chart for Terminal 5. It was really interesting. So what he had across the top was the contract packages, the work packages for the project. And down here he had contractors.
Mm.
And his job was to, because they had multiple contractors who could do different types of work,
Yeah.
and his job was to go through and track who'd been appointed to do each contract,
Yeah.
and make sure they didn't give too much work to one contractor, and balance it all out.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, that's just a RACI chart, really."
Yeah. I think they're really quite useful, especially when you've got things like, who's you see it a lot in like CDM.
Yes.
Who's
Yes.
responsible for the health and safety file?
Yes.
Who's responsible for the, who's responsible for site security?
Yes.
Who's responsible for oversight of health and safety? Who's responsible for, making sure that deliveries
Well, that's
are on time?
because one of the requirements of health and safety legislation is you define who's responsible for what.
Well, that's right, but all that's doing is relying on that principle.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Very good.
jolly good.
That was quite a long podcast, that. So,
Mm.
questions in the exam?
Questions. Well, I guess things like it's going to be describe, ways in which you can manage, develop scope on a project or something.
Yes, that's right.
Make 5 points in your answer, and you talk
Yes.
about product breakdown structures and work
Yes.
breakdown structures.
Yes.
In the old syllabus,
So I think the place to start is benefits.
the BOK 5 one, yeah. Well, you could. It depends. I mean, I think I can consider a question that's more specific that says differentiate between outcomes, outputs, and
Yes,
benefits.
I can.
And make 5 points in your answer or
But I
something.
think if it said define scope, I would start with benefits and then talk about outcomes, outputs, and then the products.
You've
and
got
the
quite a
work
long
breakdown
answer there,
structure.
though.
Pardon?
That'd be quite a long answer.
You get 5 paragraphs. 5 paragraphs. Because otherwise, you pick it up halfway through, it's quite a. And then you've got 1 paragraph to write on work breakdown structures.
You get something like define the term scope and explain 3 mechanisms of developing scope
Yes.
or managing scope or something.
Yes. Yeah. Brilliant. Good.
Like,
We hope you enjoyed this podcast and found it informative. To order a study guide, e-learning, or a tutor-led course to go with this podcast, please visit www.parallelprojecttraining.com.